Thank you, Anika, for coming on the show. Yay.
Yay, I know. My absolute pleasure.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your styling journey to date? So kind of the background, where you started, where you trained, and then the business that you have today.
Yeah, okay. So it kind of feels, I'd say it's almost feels like a bit of a lifelong sort of a journey. So my very first job was at Sports Girl, and I was, 14 years and 9 months or whatever the minimum age is. I remember I was working within 2 days. And I ended up staying with Sports Girl for many years and kind of just loved that retail aspect, and even from a really young age, giving advice and trying to help. But then when I left school, I then went on to study fine art, and I majored in sculpture. So nothing fashion related whatsoever. But I think I just I feel like I didn't quite know what I wanted to do, but I always just wanted to do something creative. So at the same time, I'd sort of applied for VM at RMIT, and so I sort of knew it was, something hands-on and three-dimensional, and that's where I always feel like I sort of fell into sculpture. And I'd always done photography as well. So, and so I think then once I finally finished my course and travelled and then came back to Melbourne, I ended up getting back into some assisting with photographers. And then I met with stylists and went, okay, now I know exactly what I want to do. Yeah. And it kind of went from there a little bit. And then, so then by about 2005, I think it was, I had an opportunity to join. It was a men's grooming centre, and they had this idea that wouldn't it be awesome to introduce a stylist who could work with their clients and do some sort of online, do some personal styling with them and take them shopping. So it was city-based, and they're time poor, and they kind of just needed help with their wardrobe. So that's how I kind of delved into working as a stylist. That was my first little kind of a role, and it was 100% male as well, which was really kind of exciting and interesting. And then, after about a year and a half of that, I was ready to go out on my own, and then that was when I launched my business, Your Look. So, and here we are 15 years later.
15 years later, that's incredible, incredible. I know a lot of stylists that are listening to the podcast are just starting out, and so it's fabulous when I get to chat with stylists that really have built an empire. I know you have a team that work under you as well if you can't do certain jobs. You work with Chadstone, which is the sort of the shopping destination in Melbourne, Victoria. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so actually with Chadstone, so that was that came about, I'm just trying to think, maybe about 8 or so years ago, and it just purely was sheer luck. I'd been in contact with them many a time to sort of say, hey, can I get onto your styling team? And then just by sheer luck that I was there, and my meeting spot for where I was with my clients used to be at which I had no idea, but it was right where the lift was, that all the staff would come up and down to head office. And I just happened, there was this one girl who was in the marketing team. I know, yeah. I was like, that was clever by me. And she said she used to spot me there all the time, and kind of thought, hey, she looks like someone who would be a really good fit in the team. Yeah, and exactly. And she's obviously here a lot. And that was basically how I got my foot in the door. And they ended up reaching out to me. And that sort of went from there. And so that was where I feel like, and I remember at the time I had my first, he was probably 6 months old or something like that. And that was where my styling kind of business really, it just took it to the next level, because obviously the Chadstone website was attracting so many people looking up stylists, and they had a team. I think at the beginning there was only 3 of us, and so that was kind of where I feel like I really was working, at the time when I had a new baby as well, and it kind of just went from there. I was working, kind of ridiculous hours, and but loved every minute of it as well. It was amazing. Yeah.
Well, so the appointments at Chadstone, were they, does Chadstone have a styling suite that you would be able to kind of meet and style the clients, or were you just going from store to store?
Yeah, so very much a store to store. So Chadstone have never had a styling suite, because I think that the theory was that their real estate was just too expensive. They couldn't see the value in it. And so they've actually now ceased their styling. They don't actually offer styling services anymore. Yep. So when they did the revamp, they phased us out. Yeah, which is really interesting.
Which is interesting. And we use the word interesting.
Well, yeah, I'm still a bit like, what did they do that for? But
well, if you were being booked out, so I know some shopping centres offer, as part of their sort of valet service, or it's either a personal styling service where they can connect you with a stylist, and it's a paid service. And some retailers perhaps offer styling as a complimentary value add. But certainly, if people were paying and you were busy, that sort of says that at that time there was most certainly still a demand for it. Now at the moment where we're at in the world, and with the pandemic, physical in-centre styling appointments are probably few and far between. In Melbourne, obviously, we're unable to do so. What's your experience been over the last kind of few weeks?
So, I mean, we're getting lots of inquiries at the moment. So I launched many months ago online styling sessions, which I actually managed to launch before, I even knew that COVID existed, which was kind of perfect timing. And because I actually live regionally, so I am a Melbourne girl, but then as I've explained to you, I ended up moving away out of Melbourne about 10 years ago. So I personally, I'm not on the ground in Melbourne doing one-on-one styling sessions as much anyway, which is why I was introducing online. And so I think the inquiries have just changed a little bit, but I'm finding there's a lot of inquiries happening. So I think people are sort of putting the feelers out and, wanting to find out more about packages and what's available. And, but still certainly online styling sessions is where I'm sort of finding people are taking up that opportunity. But I had a client, I'm just trying to think, 2 weeks ago. So in that downtime where restrictions were
eased,
eased a little bit. Yeah. So I had a client in there, and then we ended up having to, Shannon, one of my stylists, she had one booked last week that we had to cancel, obviously. So, so it's kind of that thing that people are still there, definitely, if they can, getting out and trying to shop. But I think now they'll just have to wait, until another 6 weeks.
Yeah. And with the existing clients that you had when you moved, did you find that you had to kind of transition them over to the idea that you'd be able to still work with them, albeit virtually? Were they open to that?
Well, I think, I'll be really honest, at the beginning when I moved away, I almost kept it a bit under wraps. It was almost like this kind of like dirty little secret that I wasn't based in Melbourne. And I think I was so worried that if anybody knew that I wasn't readily available to do a styling session, that they wouldn't book with me. So it was something that I almost kept very sort of down low, and unless it was an existing client who I had a relationship with, I sort of almost didn't tell any new clients. So it was kind of this interesting thing that I was probably a little bit apprehensive how if somebody thought, well, she's not here, I'm going to have to wait a month for her or something like that. So so I think, if that makes sense. So I think at the beginning I didn't really embrace that I'd moved away, and I think the virtual styling sessions have only really, for me, kicked off this year, like 2020. So
I think it becomes it's part of the educational process for stylists to start letting clients and then potential clients know how one works with a personal stylist online, because I know that prior to the popularity of virtual styling, if you were to ask someone whether they've ever worked with a personal stylist, there was still a little bit of confusion or ambiguity or a misconception that you have to be a celebrity, or it's going to cost a lot of money, or you have to only be shopping at particular sort of higher end brands. So again, now that we're moving into this virtual space, it's really a case of getting clients to understand how they can still be serviced really, really well, and in some cases more conveniently and more quickly with a virtual service. What do yours look like typically, the virtual styling services?
So at the beginning, I remember just sort of going, let's just do these little 30-minute bite size, let people just, and keep that price point down as well. So it was really an opportunity, an entry level opportunity for someone who'd always thought about a styling session. It was the chance for them to find out what it was all about. And so then 30 minutes, I'm really good at talking as well. So for 30 minutes, I was really I ended up doing at least a minimum 45 minutes. So I sort of very quickly learnt that for me, I needed to give them at least that 45 minutes. And I always like to do a little bit of an initial sort of a style review as well, where the client gets comfortable and we have a little chat. And then obviously we discuss, they create or complete an online questionnaire before our time together as well. So I'm just sort of going over their responses and the information I've gathered about them. So the shops that they traditionally shop at, to what it is that they're wanting to achieve from our time together as well, because I think that's a really important thing to have a good understanding. Some people are more focused on education and understanding body shape and colour, and then other people are very much more focused on, I feel confident with that, but I need to know where to get these certain items, or I just need a capsule wardrobe. So I think that's a really important thing, is making sure that you're both on the same page so that you don't go off in one direction when what they wanted was something really different. So, yeah.
Do you find that there's a similarity with your particular core client group in terms of what they're looking for? The sort of, I guess, the category of styling support that they're looking for? Are they more inclined to want education and just direction, or are they sort of starting from scratch and they need help building the entire wardrobe?
Well, it was interesting. I had one lady a few weeks ago who was definitely starting from scratch. And so she called through. It was obviously very last minute. It was Friday afternoon when she booked, and she booked in for that very next morning. She obviously had a moment of inspiration and thought, I've had enough. I'm doing this. Yeah, quick something. And she was just so beautiful and funny because she wore head to toe black, and she had I think 2 children maybe, and she struggled because she was, I can't remember, maybe size 16. She still got asked if she was pregnant, and she obviously wore this black ensemble with this big sort of cardigan over the top of it because she thought that if she sort of hides herself, no one would notice. And then she kind of obviously one day just thought, I've had enough of this. And so that was, I know, so incredible. And then what she was doing though, so again, this was when restrictions were less than what we're in now. So she used me to educate her and to source product. She then, after our styling session, she then went to her local shopping centre and went to all of those retailers and found the pieces that I suggested and then expanded on that as well. So for her, it was very much about, I've got no idea. I remember she described herself as, assume that I am an alien from outer space and I have no idea. And so, she really wanted to learn from the basics. So, and then within a few weeks, she was sort of like, at the end of our 45 minutes, she's like, oh, okay, so now I need to book again because now I need help with my casual wear. So she was more focused on sort of smart casual and work. And so that was kind of really cool. So I think you do have those clients who are sort of like, I have no idea, treat me like an idiot and let's start from scratch. And then you have other people that are very much focused and I just need help with my work wardrobe, or I find my most popular thing is for smart casual. A lot of my clients, they get their casual and then they can do work, but when they get invited out for dinner or they've got a girls' lunch or a 40th or whatever it is, that is my biggest kind of, that's the area that my demographic is.
That's the problem that you solve.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's quite specific, actually.
And with that, one of the exciting components of your business is the fact that you are running a successful styling membership, which I'd love to kind of tuck into. And that was a really perfect segue, but I'll get you to maybe just share a little bit of an overview and your reasoning behind why you started the membership. And then I'll just pick your brain.
Yeah, amazing. So I started Style Sqad almost a year ago. So it'll be our 1-year birthday in August. And so Style Sqad it's an online subscription model, as you said, and it's exclusively for women. And they have a monthly edit, which gets sort of delivered to their inbox on the first Tuesday of every month. And that email consists of 2 videos, and video 1 is me doing a try on. So we come up with a theme or whatever it is that my squad members want to learn more about. So sometimes it's quite specific. So activewear was one of them and swimwear was another one. And then sometimes it'll be more broad, like more of a seasonal update. And so I try on all the relevant pieces whilst educating them on the fit, on fabric and what's going to work for different sizes and shapes and styles. And then so that way they can sort of see me styling it, and I'll sort of give them a really honest appraisal as well on whether something's fitting well or not fitting so well. And then video 2 is what I use Shop Share, which is an amazing tool where it's kind of like a little, like TV channel basically, where
shoppable video
it's a virtual
content.
Yeah, exactly. So they feel like they've got me, and I'm taking them online to different stores, and all they then do is they just click on those links and they can then purchase that product directly. So it's kind of, it's really based on giving people ongoing styling support and putting them in touch with pieces whilst giving them education as well.
I think it's really interesting. I know that I'll have questions from listeners saying, what exactly are we teaching, and are you buying the clothing, and all these questions. And I think already my response would be the content that you are delivering on a monthly basis is unique to your audience. So it's not necessarily relevant to just replicate the content that you've created, because your core client might have different needs. They might not want to receive information in that way. And it's really important to understand who your core client is, what their styling support requirements are, what the problems are that you're wanting to solve, and then package it up in a way that's accessible, cost effective, and attractive for them. I wanted to sort of expand on ShopShare TV. I think it's an incredible tool. I know you use it. Just for those of the listeners that haven't come across ShopShare TV before, once you join and you become a sharer of content, essentially you can record your own screen shopping on any website, online store, and you can effectively clip products that go into a sort of an easy to access menu for the viewer. So you can create a video. I think you've done one before, which was sort of public facing for leather jackets, or it was a leather jacket at Portman's. Was that something? And so you kind of went through all of the different leather jackets that were on sale. It's recording your voice as well and your face, so you can kind of add that personalization, and then you're sharing that content on YouTube and with your subscribers, I'd imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So it's one of those things that, and I just find it such an easy platform to just connect with people. And I think, as I've said to you last time, I would much rather talk to camera, or it's not even like you're sitting talking to a camera. You really just talk, looking at the screen, researching.
Kind of talking to yourself.
You're kind of talking to yourself, exactly. So it's actually for anyone that feels a bit intimidated or you're put off by the idea that you're on camera. For me, I just find I would take that any day over having to sit and write and try and come up with words. I would rather just talk it through.
Right.
And so for me, I just find that would be my first choice to connect with my followers or clients or the Style Squad. And I just think that for them as well, it's just so much, I feel like I can sort of deliver so much more education as well, and really sort of take them through the ins and outs of a garment. And then as well, I always like to really sort of show them a range of price points. So I think with the leather jackets, I sort of started at more of a lower price point, and then took them through to that mid price point, and then showed them that luxe version as well. And what was amazing was then the feedback that came through, people sending me through messages, letting me know. I remember Portman's did must have had a sale on at the same time, but it was some leather jacket that was, maybe like $280 or something like that. So it was a really good entry level price point. And the amount of people that bought this jacket and then sent me messages to say how good it was. And they were saying, Portman's, I haven't thought about Portman's for such a long time. Or
always
I haven't been
in
there
Portman's.
since I was.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's kind of that really cool thing that you just kind of, and I think for me, that's like the biggest thrill is you put this content out there, you don't know what one's going to ever be the most popular. And then sure enough, Portman's, is the front runner out of all these beautiful different leather jackets. So it's such a cool tool.
I think it sounds like you're able to reintroduce existing brands, or perhaps present new brands to clients virtually in the same way that you would be, in a physical sense, hand-holding them across the threshold of a new store and saying, let me take you through. I know a lot of stylists, before they do that big shop with a client in, let's say, a shopping centre, would have potentially done a preliminary shop. And with this ShopShare tool, you can actually record that preliminary shop and package it up as a service that clients pay for, or as part of a membership piece of content. Why did you start the membership? Can you talk me through the strategy behind it?
Yeah, so I almost had So many, many years ago, so maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was working with another shopping centre, Bayside Shopping Centre, and they had a program where I was there for a few weeks, and they were free online. Oh, not free. I keep saying online. Free styling sessions. They were face to face, one-on-one. And anyway, I ended up having an awesome relationship with the shopping centre for many years because these styling sessions would completely book out. And it was such a clever idea by the shopping centre because they then had me as their stylist who they paid me to be there, but then the styling sessions were free. So there was no fee involved for the people that attended. But then every time we kind of kept data on what the sales were. And the investment in me was far less than the dollar amount spent in stores.
Absolutely.
So it was a no-brainer. Yeah, and what was amazing was the really broad, I think, demographic of women that I was seeing. So a really broad range of age groups, broad range of sizing as well. I remember sometimes they would come to me and say, I've only got $50, but I really need a dress. And so that was, I think, that thrill and the challenge that came with having, meeting with so many women who weren't my usual client base. Yeah. And they wouldn't have normally have paid for a styling session, but they still, they wanted that education and direction, but they wouldn't have normally been able to get access to it. And I think there was sort of this light bulb moment that I thought I wanted to create something that allowed women who wouldn't necessarily want or be able to be in a position to do a one-on-one styling session. I wanted to give them access to a stylist. So that was definitely the initial idea. Yeah, and I think then from there, so the idea sort of grew. I remember it must have been 4 years ago. I was sort of busily writing content and getting this website off the ground when I had my third baby. I remember there like feeding on one side and typing on the other. It was kind of like crazy times. And so the initial so my styling business is called Your Look, and then I created Your Style Revolution. And so that's why my branding's a little bit, so that was 4 years ago that I launched Your Style Revolution, and that was a very different looking what is now Style Sqad. So it was very much online content that was more, you log in and you read the content, and there was less video then as well. So, and it didn't take off, and I didn't pour the energy into it that it deserved because I knew it wasn't quite right. And I think I wasn't in the right position to kind of launch it either.
You just had a newborn.
And exactly. But I had this idea, and I'm fairly determined as well. So when I have an idea, I'm really good at getting ideas off the ground, but then sometimes I can flatline and get a bit like, oh, shit, what do I do with this? Yeah. And so it just kind of flatlined. And then I sort of always had this sort of thing inside of me, like I have to do something with this. And that's where then Style Sqad, I sort of started working on it in January 2019, and I was able to launch in August 2019. So, so that was kind of where it all came about.
It's really clever. So I guess from a marketing perspective, it's like gated content. It's content that you're creating that someone has to pay for to access. But I noted that you mentioned earlier the theme of the month is whatever your kind of Style Sqad want to learn about. So do you encourage or foster a sense of community within the subscription, within the subscribers? Do they
absolutely
all kind of contribute to what they want to learn?
Yeah, certainly. So I've got a private Facebook group. So that's where as soon as you sign up to become a member, you then get access to that community. And so that's where I'll often say to them, give me your ideas. What is it that you want to learn more about? And that's obviously also where they will, or I will, post. It might be just that I've seen that there's a really good sale on at a retailer, and I'll send in, give them links to the things that I would be picking out, like give them my top 3 picks from that sale. And then that's that conversation starter that then they all contribute. But, I know they'll get in there and say, hey, I've just been invited to, I think, whatever, this event or that. And they might post a photo of themselves, or they might be desperate and they're at the shops. Has anyone got any ideas where I should go for this or that? So it's become this really, really kind of, which is what I was wanting, this great community where they're not relying on me to initiate the conversation. They now will go in there and talk about, whatever it is. And I remember one of the members that signed up recently, she got in there and on day one, just did this little, I think she did like this little try on and just did her own little video. And I thought, good on her. Like, it's just so great that she's just in here and so it's a really highly engaged group. And I know that, there's some that just sit and love watching and just learning, but the girls that are really engaged, they contribute with such brilliant, content. So so it's really cool. I think that's a really important part of the online subscription, because that's where I encourage them to post questions. So rather than, DMing me or emailing me, I sort of say, hey, that's a great question. If they've emailed me, I'm just going to post it over in the community though, so everyone can learn from it.
It's such a challenge, but so incredibly effective when you master the art of developing an actively engaged community, which I presume also provide you with opportunities to build additional offers and expand the business as a whole, because you're hearing exactly what these people want from you, what they're loving, and what they'd like to see more of. So has the feedback from them, because this is a relatively new concept, being a member of a sort of a styling coaching membership forum, has the feedback been quite positive? Are they getting used to working in a virtual environment?
Yeah, I think so. So it's I think what's been really interesting is initial sign-ups went out to, so I sort of did a bit of a soft launch, and that went out to my existing client base. And that was really great. And I sort of created an offer for a 12-month membership. And so the sign up there was really good. So that's been that nice thing that we've sort of had a really solid base for the first 12 months. And then beyond that, I've recently launched a 14-day free trial because it is such a unique and new concept that a lot of people are a little bit like, oh, what is that? I don't actually understand how it works. So I thought if people can come in and experience it, then they can sort of, play around, watch it. So all the content's on the website. Once you've logged in, you get access to all the previous videos as well. So I think that people are sort of are liking the concept. As far as retention rate goes, obviously that 14-day trial was a really good chance for me to sort of see if people are coming in and 90% are leaving again. I kind of would have, it's obvious I've got to change something. Exactly, yeah. So retention rate at the moment, though, is really, really good. So I feel like, I haven't looked at the stats recently, but it's sort of at about that 70%. So
that's fantastic.
Sort of saying to me,
and thank you for sharing really that. I was in my head, I'm thinking, you don't need to say it, but thank you very much for being so open and transparent with our community. I really appreciate it, absolutely. Genuinely.
Yeah, it's nice.
So back to the, I guess, the impetus or the inspiration for Style Sqad. Thought you made a really, really interesting point there that I wanted to just elaborate on before we finish. You mentioned that there were people in the shopping centre that you were previously aligned with that wouldn't necessarily have booked in with you for a proper, 3 to 5 hour personal styling session, but there was still a demand there. I think when we talk about virtual styling services these days, there is a propensity for stylists to feel as if they've got to kind of be one or the other. Virtual styling is completely replacing traditional services. And I think it's a fantastic example of how you can create what's called a value ladder, smaller, less expensive services that can service a broader client base and then nurture them and build them up. So even though there's going to be a proportion of your client base that can buy your most expensive, most comprehensive services, there's also going to be a proportion that may not be ready yet to invest a lot of money. They want to test the waters, and this type of subscription gives them that incredible opportunity of getting to know you and your value and your expertise. It's such a great solution to, I guess, the challenge that people come up against as a stylist, which is people saying they want to work with me, but they can't afford to.
Yes.
Instead of ending that conversation going, oh, well, let me know when you can. Here is a perfect opportunity of how you can still grow your business and service those clients. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, I sort of was a little bit concerned offering a virtual styling session at a lower price point. And then I sort of, you do the math on, well, how much time, apart from me sitting, I'll do some research online, which might be a 30-minute, sort of, searching. So I have everything there in my shopping cart ready to go to make it really efficient. And then you kind of go, well, I'm not having to, go out and meet them. I'm not having to do that pre-shop, and it's all sort of done and wrapped up, and you hit end and you're good to go. So I think for me, I then looked at it as that, as you sort of said, if they can do an online session with me, or whether it's Style Sqad, where they can just start to see how I work and the language I use, and if that's something that they can kind of connect with, well, then that's that stepping stone that then they will take up the next step, or they'll just sort of, stay with me as a client and continually kind of tap into, whether it be, so I've got a Style Sqad member who then purchased a online styling session, but she wasn't there, so I create shop shares as well. So deliver those shop shares for people. So I'll just say, hi, this is what,
video.
A customized video. So it's a private video that they only get the link for. And so rather than them say like a Zoom meeting where we share our screen, they just do their online questionnaire and tell me what it is that they're after. And then I'll just do that shop share for them. And that 45 minutes. And then they just go, great, bang, bang, bang. They order online, and then that's kind of their shopping for the season done.
Yeah, and that suits a client who is particularly fond of working on their own schedule, who doesn't necessarily need to be sitting having this sort of emotional connection. They genuinely want guidance and direction, and to be told where to buy things. And I think the other bonus with a platform like ShopShare TV, which is an affiliate platform as well, you earn commissions based on what the people that purchase any of the garments that you've kind of highlighted in your videos. So whilst you might have a lower price point for the membership, if the membership is built on content that you're producing every month and sending that out to your subscribers, you're then earning additional commissions on top of that, because they're all potentially purchasing your suggestions. So it becomes a kind of, I'm not going to call it passive income, because you've still got to do the work, but it's certainly a supplementary boost to the revenue every month.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so it's one of those things that it's kind of like a little added bonus. Not that I always, my number one priority is always very much the client or the Style Sqad, and putting them in touch with product that is relevant versus I'm going to go and put this product in from that retailer because they're an affiliate retailer. But so sometimes that affiliation isn't there, and so that doesn't always happen so I'll always just use the content I want to use. But the best part about that with ShopShare is that I can actually see, it doesn't actually give me a breakdown of what product has been purchased, but it will tell me from a retailer. I can get a report that then says that, which is really interesting. So PE Nation, I did an activewear ShopShare, and I've probably mentioned them a few other times, but PE Nation is my biggest click through to a sale and then Country Road comes in second. Whereas I would have never have known that, because obviously that's the thing with a virtual, you'd never actually have that feedback necessarily, and you don't know. Whereas you do a one-on-one styling session and you know that they've bought X, Y, and Z from these stores. So you kind of have that as your, that's
incredible. And you can then tailor content, knowing that if your highest click-through product, so for listeners that aren't sure on the terminology, when you're creating recorded videos with the ShopShare TV tool, and you're on the PE Nation website and you've kind of suggested a few pieces, all of your subscribers receive that video. They can then easily click on some of the garments that you've kind of clipped and purchase them as you would for all the other products you recommend. But then most of them are buying PE Nation when you suggest that as a product, which then tells you, okay, well, this is a brand that they like and they align with. So from a PR and marketing and content perspective, you then know, okay, down the track, when we're not in a global pandemic, I might consider partnering with them, for some sort of cross-promotional campaign, or I'm going to continue to work with the sort of athletic, oh my God, I can't even say it. Athletic, oh my God, I can't say it. Athleisure wear. Oh my God, that was so hard. So it's fascinating. I guess another benefit of using these virtual tools is that you're provided with analytics and data that before now you wouldn't have been able to use. So there's all this useful information at your fingertips. So you can just keep tweaking and refining. It makes your clients happy because they're now starting to see brands that they enjoy. But it's a fantastic component of your business, and how lucky to have been able to do all that work beforehand. So you're kind of cruising through COVID, dare I say.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, to a degree. I sort of feel like I often get asked that question, how's your business going? And it's kind of like, well, it's kind of amazing actually. And I think I do a lot of events as well, and so a lot of workshops and runways and photo shoots, and all of a sudden that got put on hold. So what happened, I think, for me was I was able to get quite focused and go, okay, let's focus on Style Sqad. Let's focus on the online styling sessions, which I think, and that's where sometimes I'm a bit stop-start because I'm gung-ho with an idea and then all of a sudden I've got 1 week on a shoot or an event or something like that. So it's that stop-start that throws me. So COVID's almost been a little bit of a blessing for my business because it's really allowed me to get really focused and set some goals and then set out and sort of watch them as I'm sort of, getting the things I'm writing down on my list of things to do. I'm actually getting them done. Where often they sit there not done.
Yeah, and I think when you've got your own business, it's very easy to get either overwhelmed with all of the things you know that you should be doing or that are on the to-do lists. And I've got 2 diaries in front of me, physical diaries, and then about 1 billion documents on my laptop. But I think maybe thinking about some sort of membership offer where you can focus on creating that body of content that goes out to a group seems to be something that is manageable if you apply a plan and you're accountable for yourself. Is it relatively is it not as daunting as it may sound, I guess, is my question, in terms of creating the content and disseminating it?
Yeah. So I feel like the initial setup was really major. So lots of late nights and lots of really early starts to, lots of hours went into the back end and creating the website and just planning, I think. Whereas now I'm sort of a little, not on autopilot, but I sort of know the structure and what needs to happen and when filming needs to happen to allow enough time. So I do all the editing as well. I allow a day for filming, allow another day for editing, and then you need to allow another day for filming the shop share. And then there's a lot of ins and outs, but now that I've been doing it for almost 12 months, I'm fairly good at it and I know how much time to allow. So it has now given me lots of other, 2 weeks free where I'll kind of know I don't need to focus on Style Sqad apart from, going in and engaging in the community group. And I try and do a mid-month. So because it comes out on the first Tuesday of each month, I now do a mid-month little shop share video, which is only about a 15-minute one. So that's really nice and easy. And got my cat visiting. And so that's kind of that really nice thing that now that I've sort of got it all under control, I feel like I'm able to, now I'm creating more content for them and I'm more engaged and I'm giving them more bang for their buck than I was 11 months ago. So it's great.
Would you recommend, I know, and this is a question that I'll probably get, so we may as well ask it now. You don't use a subscription plugin, do you? You're on WordPress with Stripe and PayPal. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, and the reason when I sort of did my research, because I wanted to offer a 14-day free trial, and I really wanted it that if they were going to come in for that 14-day free trial, the idea was that they enter their credit card details at that first point. And then that way they go in and they unsubscribe before the 14 days. But I just thought I didn't want to have them in for 14 days and then have to email them and go, okay, so now you sign up. And so that was the easiest solution. So, and you kind of know if someone's willing to hand over their credit card details before they've really, sort of gone in and they actually know what it's like, you sort of already know that they're kind of over the line anyway because they're handing over their credit card. Does that make sense? So it's kind of that nice thing that rather than getting 100 people sign up and then you lose 90 of them or whatever, it's that nice thing that by the time someone signs up, they're fairly engaged as it is.
You've just got to keep them happy and keep them engaged. Would you recommend working with a web developer or nutting it out yourself? Because there's 2 schools of thought. Some people, they just think, I'm never going to get my head around this. I don't have time. I don't like it. I don't want to make a mistake. And then there are those that are like, I'd rather teach myself now so I can make those tweaks myself and not have to pay someone for those incremental additional hours of work down the track.
Yeah, so I sort of dabbled. So when I had the website built initially, and then that web designer gave me a little bit of training. So I know the basics. And plus that's, I think, where your time goes as, when you run your own business, it's just teaching yourself stuff.
Yeah.
And so you get in there and you've got to be willing to make mistakes and it takes, it's time. And but I've also got an amazing girl, Sarah, who helps me with sort of the behind the scenes. And so for some updates, I'll just sort of, send her through some updates. And so she sort of manages that side
website
for
updates,
me now. website updates and, updating blogs or whatever it might be, updating imagery. But I still go in and with Style Sqad, and I still do all of the like the monthly edits myself. So yeah, it's a little bit of a team effort. But then if there's bigger things, we do outsource it to a web developer who does bigger changes. So it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, good advice. You want to know
what you're doing to a degree, I think.
I think it's just good for people to know that, okay, you know what, it is doable, definitely. There is an element of upskilling and training that you have to do, you know, to invest in yourself and your own business. There's also resources available for you if you need help, let's say with setting up the payment component, you know, or a particular plugin or just general WordPress or Squarespace updates, whatever platform you're using. So it sounds like it's just a bit of trial and error. You're practicing a bit yourself, teaching yourself, make sure there's potentially someone on standby to help.
Exactly.
But once you know, you know.
Yeah, that I know. And that's it sort of. And sometimes I think as well, I tried to be everything and manage everything. And then I think, which it's still happening to this day, I'm learning more and more that sometimes it's better to just outsource something and focus on what I'm good at. So, and I'm now knowing more and more what I really enjoy doing and what I get frustrated with or what kind of stumps me and leaves me wasting a day and then without the result that I'm after. And so I'm sort of getting better at putting value on my time and energy and outsourcing what I know is going to drive me bonkers and won't get me the result I'm after. So, yeah, I think you've got to be smart in business and really sort of and as well, I'm a mum with 3 kids and so my time's really valuable. So I think as well, but when I was younger, it's kind of that thing that I've got no kids, I've got all the time in the world, I can spend all day doing this.
Yes,
so
crack on.
So I think as well, it depends on your, you know, your situation. But for me, and normally when I need things done, I need them done pretty quickly. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Anika, for sharing all of your incredible insights and even the nitty-gritty private stuff about your business, which is
no problem.
Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you, Sarah.